Welcome to the first episode of Seek Out the Arts for 2025. Hello everyone, Jennifer here, and welcome back to the Daily Connoisseur and our monthly episode of Seek Out the Arts, where we do a deep dive into art and culture. Before we dive into today's topics, I want to let you know that the ad revenue from this video is going to be donated to the American Red Cross of Greater Los Angeles, benefiting the people who have been affected by the California wildfires. So I hope that you watch this video, and not only that, but share it with your friends as well. And let's raise money together as a Daily Connoisseur family. And you can do that simply by watching the video. So thank you for that. And I also want to say thank you to the Chic Society for bringing us this wonderful series. Chic Society is channel memberships here on the Daily Connoisseur. I do one vodcast every Friday, and we also go live once a month. We also have an optional pen pal program where over 1,000 of you are writing to each other all across the world. It's pretty amazing. So the information to join the Chic Society will be down below, and I will also be mentioning the top tier elegant connoisseurs at the end of the video. Okay, let's jump right into our painting selection for this month, which is Portrait de Famille by Degas. Now, we have studied Edgar Degas before, but we've never looked at this picture. An alternative name for this painting is the Bellelli Family. It was painted in 1867, and this is the largest painting that Degas would ever create. It is believed that this was exhibited in Paris at the Salon of 1867, and it currently resides at the Musée d'Orsay. So this is a family portrait, but it's not your typical family portrait. It's not happy smiles and posing for the painter. I mean, they probably did pose for this, but it's interesting the choice that they made. So this is a real family portrait of Degas, and this woman, the mother here, is actually his aunt, and that's her husband, and those are their two daughters. So Laura is the aunt, the husband is the Baron Gennaro Bellelli, who lived from 1812 to 1864, and their daughters are Giulia and Giovanna. Now, Giovanna is to the viewer's left, and Giulia is to the viewer's right. Okay, so let's have a look at this painting. First impressions. The first thing I notice, apart from the people, of course, is the room. It's beautifully decorated. They have ornate objects like gold gilded mirrors and candlesticks, and I see a hint of a chandelier there. I see some wallpaper, a beautiful carpet, and so this indicates to me that they are a well-off family. It's a beautifully appointed room. The first thing I also noticed was that Laura herself is in a black mourning dress. After doing research, I found out that her father died, and that is him in the portrait on the wall right behind her. So she's in mourning dress. And then the two daughters are also in mourning dress, and they have their white pinafores on top of them. Okay, and then we see the husband, Gennaro Bellelli. His back is turned toward the viewers, and it's not clear why. Maybe he was looking at the letters on the desk. Maybe he was, I was gonna say maybe he's facing the fireplace, but it doesn't appear that the fireplace is lit. There's no light coming from there. So it is kind of weird that he's just like facing that wall. But I believe that it's probably to show a sense of separateness and detachment from his wife and children. We're gonna get more into the tea about that later. Okay, so yes, the father has a very passive, relaxed energy, which contrasts greatly to the stiff, austere form that his wife takes. And then there's the two daughters as well. And there's just a lot of energy going on in this painting. And I don't know if you sense that as well, but so Laura, the mother, she looks very unhappy, displeased, like resigned almost. And of course she must be in mourning because of her father, so naturally she's not going to be all smiley and happy. However, it seems like there's a bit more going on here. She, is very formal, very upright, very distant looking, as opposed to her husband, who is kind of slouched in the chair and turned with his back toward the viewer. Then the two girls. So the mother has her hand on Giovanna's shoulder. It kind of looks like the children are between the parents in a way. Like Giulia in the middle has one foot toward the mother, like her body language is pointing toward the mother, yet her head is tilted in the father's direction and she looks kind of distant and sad. Giovanna is looking at the viewer. She's the only one in the painting looking at the viewer with her hands crossed. She looks a little bit tense, a little bit nervous. So I sense that there's tension between the wife and the husband, and the children are kind of like walking on eggshells. That's the sense that I get with this. So this painting is interesting because of its large size that is usually reserved for grand scale historical dramas. But instead, this captures a family portrait. So to me, that's magnifying the subtle drama that we're seeing here. Of course, I looked up the backstory, and yes, my instincts that there were tension between the married couple were absolutely true. And people say that this painting is interesting because of its large size. That size is usually reserved for grand scale historical dramas, but instead, it's put this family drama on a grand scale almost. And another thing to note here is that the husband is not in mourning clothes when the wife and daughters are, so that is a bit interesting. Okay, I have a few more funny notes from my research that I picked up on this. So there is a family dog at the lower right corner, and according to Arthur Danto, this was a quote he said about the painting: "The family dog is sensibly sneaking out of the picture before all hell breaks loose." So the animal knows that there's tension in this family and it's just like hiding at the bottom there. And then also I read this. So Laura, who is Degas' aunt, she wrote a note to him after he had returned to Paris, and she said, "You must be very happy to be with your family again instead of being in the presence of a sad face like mine and a disagreeable one like my husband's." So yes, the tension is real. So how was the painting received? Initially, it did elicit confusion from the critics, who said that it was dull as a Flemish interior, although the dry technique is distinctive. They were just confused by the grand scale of this painting when it was just a family portrait, you know? But since then, the biographers of Degas have acknowledged it as the masterpiece of his youth. So I would love to know what you think of the Bellelli family portrait. Let us know if you noticed any more details in the comments down below. For the musical selection, I have something so special. So I don't know if you all saw the reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral back in 2024, but the musical content and performances there have given us something to look at for like the whole year on Seek Out the Arts. But I wanted to share one of the most beautiful ones. It's very short and quick, and everyone can listen to this if you haven't already seen it. But it is Yo-Yo Ma performing at the opening of Notre Dame, and he's performing Johann Sebastian Bach's Cello Suite Number 1, the Prelude. And this is a cello suite that we're all familiar with. In fact, we've probably even studied this before in Seek Out the Arts. But this performance has to be seen and heard. It is so sublime and magnificent. I had it on repeat. Just when the prelude is about to end and, you know, the cello is going up in the octaves, it is just so sublime. It like does something to your brain. It's so perfect. So I hope that you will go check out Yo-Yo Ma performing at the opening of Notre Dame. Okay, so for our poetry selection today, we're going to be reading a poem called The Deserted House, and it is by Alfred Lord Tennyson. I'm reading out of this Simply Charlotte Mason poetry book on Alfred Lord Tennyson, in case you're curious, but this is a very interesting poem. So let's read it now and then we'll talk about it. Okay, The Deserted House. Life and thought have gone away, side by side, leaving door and windows wide, careless tenants they. All within is dark as night, in the windows is no light, and no murmur at the door, so frequent on its hinge before. Close the door, the shutters close, or through the windows we shall see the nakedness and vacancy of the dark deserted house. Come away, no more of mirth is here or merry-making sound. The house was builded of the earth and shall fall again to ground. Come away, for life and thought here no longer dwell, but in a city glorious, a great and distant city, have bought a mansion incorruptible, would they could have stayed with us. Come away, for life and thought here no longer dwell, but in a city glorious, a great and distant city, have bought a mansion incorruptible. Would they could have stayed with us. Okay, so what is the deserted house about? So the dark house that this talks about, all within is dark as night, in the windows is no light. It's talking about the dead body, basically. These poems are always, they're so morbid, but it's interesting what they say about them. So the deserted house was printed along with other poems of Tennyson's in his collection called Poems Chiefly Lyrical of 1830. And the poem is printed alongside his poems The Dying Swan, The Mystic, Ode to Memory, and The Sleeping Beauty, and then The Grasshopper. So yes, it is talking about death and the body after, you know, the spirit leaves it, which is always something that I do think about all the time. Like it's just wild, right? And it's talking about how the shutters are closed, the metaphor of, you know, the body being like the dark house, right? Life and thought have gone away. And it's interesting at the very beginning of the poem, life and thought are not capitalized. Well, life is, but that's because it's the first word and it has to be. But in the final stanza, life and thought are capitalized. That is interesting. And it says, here they no longer dwell, right? But in a city glorious, a great and distant city, a mansion incorruptible. So I do think that while it is morbid and it's talking about how the dead body has life that has come out of it, it does end on a positive, uplifting note. That life, capital L, and thought, capital T, they're not here anymore, but they are still around. They're in the glorious city, heaven, right? Now this is interesting. I found this bit of information. It says, out of a possible response to Tennyson's death, Evelyn de Morgan, do you remember her? We studied her the last time we did Seek Out the Arts in the Garden of Opportunity. So Evelyn de Morgan painted Life and Thought Have Gone Away, a work based on this poem, The Deserted House. So let's have a look at that real quick. We won't do a painting study, but if you want to, let me know in the comments down below. So with the painting, she exerted part of the poem dealing with life and thought. And it's interesting because the capitalization of life and thought was something that I picked up on when I read this too. So she created an entire painting about that. And I love her paintings, and I'm so grateful to the viewer that recommended her to me because I had not heard of her. But we can go into life and thought if you want to in a new video, so let me know if you would like to do that. But I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Seek Out the Arts, and now I'm going to share the Elegant Connoisseurs with you. They are the top tier members in the Chic Society. The 90-Day Memoir with Alan Watt, beginning January 30th, 2025. Jenny Williams from Carrot Top Paper Shop. The Elegant Eating Handbook, Timeless Strategies for Lasting Weight Loss and a Peaceful Relationship with Food by Elaine Brisebois. Guy Blaise, author of Love Like the French, A Guide to Better Romance and Relationships. Dr. Kate Philbin, transpersonal psychologist and professionally certified life and executive coach. Carrie Van Hooser, author of 'Tis the Season for Poetry. And thank you to the following: Catherine Ray, Ashley Craig Diaz, Heather Barrera, Gina K. Henry, Kate Holmes, Kelly Ruel, Linda Eckloff, Maria Condor, Nicole Brignol, Pamela B. Bartol, Royal Living by Jen Marie de Giles, and Tina Hugao. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget that the ad revenue from today's video is going to benefit the American Red Cross of Greater Los Angeles to benefit the people who have been impacted by the California wildfires. So make sure that you share this video with your friends, and I'm so grateful to you for being here on the channel and being a part of this community. I love studying the arts with you, and it's just such a pleasure. So if you also have any recommendations for any future episodes, please leave them down below. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Keep calm and remain classy, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.